Good evening. These are the stories making the headlines in the Hot 7 Nightly News.
HelpAge calls for the government to do more to safeguard seniors following an assault upon an elderly Miku woman. United and Strong applauds the ruling of the CCJ regarding cross-dressing and says it's time the region get with the times. And the opposition SLP says government must let good sense prevail on healthcare and not put horses before humans. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
It is Wednesday, the 14th of November 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I am Lovelace St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The president of HelpAge St. Lucia is calling for policies to be put in place to protect the nation's elderly population. Peter Favrier says greater effort is needed to help the older generation to feel loved, appreciated, and safe. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
The organization responsible for the well-being of the elderly in St. Lucia has spoken out following an attempted rape on a senior woman in Miku over the weekend. Peter Favrier, who is the president of HelpAge, National Council of and for Elderly Persons, has called on the powers that be to introduce new policies that would protect the older generation of the island from negative occurrences including violence and neglect. Favrier said incidents like what occurred in Miku are unacceptable and so immediate action is needed to tackle the problem of elderly abuse.
This calls to mind a very important matter that we have spoken about before, and it's a whole question of a national policy on the elderly so that we can set minimum standards to treat and deal with the elderly. As long as we allow it to remain the way it is, the elderly will remain vulnerable. Some people will feel that they can do what they want at any time and escape with it. But if we have a national policy where we have looked at certain specific issues and we have addressed those issues, when matters like that arise, we'd have an immediate response to that because we have a national policy on the elderly. So it calls for consultation when things like that happen, for national consultation, for us to sit and look specifically at the conditions under which our elderly survive on a daily basis.
The HelpAge president said the nation has now reached the point as a developing country where they need to come together to address the specific issues of the elderly.
Unless we do that, then the elderly will be vulnerable to unscrupulous persons, greedy persons, wicked people who would abuse the elderly because they are at a stage where they cannot maybe help themselves, they cannot defend themselves, they cannot protect themselves, and very often they are helpless in the circumstance where they live. So it's unfortunate that these things are happening, but the rest of us, especially my organization, we are looking very deeply into the circumstances surrounding all of those cases and to see whether we could advance, a strong argument to the authority for us to sit and look at the draft national policy that we have so that we can treat our elderly in a different and a better way.
Favrier continued on to say that the current state of affairs where the elderly are concerned comes from a place of ignorance where many people simply don't know the intricate details of elderly care. He said, however, with research, people could realize just how important the older generation is to the nation.
These are the people who struggle to make St. Lucia what it is today. These are the people that brought us out of what you call adult suffrage, when we just were given an opportunity to vote. And the nation was in a dire state in terms of education, in terms of employment, in terms of trade union representation, in terms of basic wage, in terms of health care. This is the generation that helped bring us to where we are now, where the comforts of living, are satisfactory. And to choose to neglect them is really out of question. We have now to do something to enable them to exist in a dignified way. And the best way we can do that is not necessarily to just distribute things around for them. That might be necessary. But the most important aspect is for us to establish rules and regulations to govern the status of the elderly.
Fevrier said with policies put in place, older people will be able to rest assured that they will not be abandoned and that their health, wellness, safety and comfort will be looked after. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. The management of Rennick & Company is commending the speedy efforts of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force following the robbery of its Chocolisto sales van. The robbery occurred in Jacmel on Monday. The vehicle has since been recovered. Solange Alfred has more in this report.
Renwick & Company's Chocolisto van, PE 9785, was taken by bandits on Monday, while the vehicle made its usual rounds in van sales. Speaking with operations manager of Renwick & Company, Ryan Rivers, he divulged information that was given to him by the two employees who had the vehicle stolen from them.
One of our vehicles had been robbed. They held them up at gunpoint and took the vehicle and drove off with it. They were just getting ready to offload at a shop. Well, what happened is they were reversing into the driveway of the shop and the vehicle pulled up in front of them.
Rivers went on to disclose that although recent reports have indicated that the tracking device was turned off in the vehicle, this was not the case, and the vehicle has since been discovered.
All the goods were taken off of the vehicle and then they sent it down a precipice. So it was written off. It is written off.
The operations manager highlighted that they have been the target of such acts in the past, but in recent times, situations like these have been few and far between. Rivers went on to commend the swift actions of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force in ascertaining the vehicle.
And I must commend the police for the speedy reaction to the situation. And I found that very good of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
The Chocolisto van was carrying a number of different goods that the company supplies to outlets around the island. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Is St. Lucia any closer to bringing resolve to the matter of alleged extrajudicial killings by police and the lifting of the Leahy Law sanctions by the U.S.? The Justice Minister concedes that it is a long process, but says he is satisfied that the government is doing all in its power to facilitate the office of the DPP as it tries to bring resolve.
Justice Minister Herman Gill Francis says there is light at the end of the tunnel as it relates to the investigation by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions into alleged extrajudicial killings that saw the U.S. implementing sanctions that restrict any U.S. funding to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. As per the stipulations of the U.S. Leahy Law, there has to be prosecution of those accused of gross human rights violations. The U.S. has made it abundantly clear that there will be no lifting of the Leahy sanctions without meaningful progress on this front. Minister Francis says the process is moving along.
There are three outcomes that can come out of prosecution. The DPP can nullify process and says that I don't have sufficient evidence to go forward, and nobody can say anything about that. That's his constitutional right. Second, you can be convicted or you can be dismissed. The matter can be acquitted, they can be acquitted. So it's a long process, okay? And the government has tried its very best in that issue, and I'm happy. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. That I did in fact speak to Undersecretary De La Pina, and things are moving forward.
The investigation is complete, and the file rests with the Director of Public Prosecutions. However, the minister was quick to add that there will be no political pressure or political influence brought to bear on the office of the DPP.
Again, the DPP's position is constitutional, and unlike certain persons who will want to go and speak to the DPP and tell the DPP what to do, this government will not do that. We will allow the DPP to do his duty and perform his functions without any influence whatsoever.
Minister Francis says throughout this process, beginning with the inquest and the impacts investigation, much damage was done to St. Lucia's reputation by none other than politicians, with their own selfish motives in mind.
The chairman of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Moses Jabatis, is once again expressing dismay with the current administration's failure to fix one of the island's biggest ailments, the healthcare sector. The Viewfort North MP also went on to accuse the Prime Minister of placing more focus on DSH rather than on the health of his people. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
The St. Lucia Labour Party chairman, Moses Jean-Baptiste, has issued some strong words to the United Workers' Party administration during a Wednesday morning press conference. The conference was called to address the island's healthcare crisis, which, according to Jean-Baptiste, has worsened in the past weeks. He said the SLP has been reliably informed of a number of issues plaguing the island's two main medical facilities, including affected services due to the inadequacy of beds, space and supplies, as well as deteriorating conditions.
The stated intentions of the government for the St. Jude Hospital in the short to medium term is nothing more than madness and needs immediate clarification. In addition, while the crisis deepens, the commissioning of the OKEU hospital is showing little progress and being conducted under a cloud of secrecy. Additionally, the reported plans by the government to privatize the Owen King EU hospital, in addition to the uncertainty of the jobs of nurses, have created even more confusion and acceleration of public anxiety about the worsening healthcare situation. Visible proof of falling ceilings and structures within the wards, in particular the maternity ward of the Victoria Hospital, has caused the public of St. Lucia increased disquiet and fear.
The Vieux-Fort North MP accused Prime Minister Alan Chastanet of having his priorities twisted, as he is seemingly more interested in building horse racing tracks than taking care of the healthcare sector.
While the UWP administration has put work at the St. Jude Hospital site on hold and bungling the commissioning of the OKEU hospital, it is, however, spending millions on roads for a racetrack which belongs to a foreign investor who has reduced the Prime Minister to a puppet. Yes, the Prime Minister has become Theo Aking's puppet. Millions more have been wasted in tax waivers, and more recently, millions to be paid as a result of the mismanagement of the Range Hotel project. Our hospitals and healthcare do not seem to be a priority for this government.
Jean-Baptiste said St. Lucians are not deserving of this kind of treatment. He said the government is aware of their shortcomings and are now going from bad to worse with their decision-making.
The St. Lucia Labour Party warns that the current situation in healthcare affects all St. Lucians, health professionals, public servants, business owners, politicians, the clergy and their followers. We are all affected by the deteriorating health conditions in our country. All of us. So if there is anyone who believes that they are not in it, think again. Is the UWP administration waiting for further disaster? Does the Prime Minister care about the health of St. Lucians?
The press conference took place at the Office of the Opposition. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, United and Strong applauds the CCJ ruling, and the opposition says the country's comprehensive secondary school is here to stay. We'll be right back.